I want your calls on this first. Is it time to give Strictly the axe after yet another scandal? 0207 862 2222 is the number. Tell us what you think. The BBC has launched an investigation into cocaine abuse by two unnamed stars of the family-friendly show. Their drug use apparently was well known and talked about widely by co-stars, according to The Sun on Sunday. The claims were presented to the BBC by a law firm representing former contestant Wynne Evans. He was dropped by the BBC after apologising for an inappropriate sexual comment during the launch of this year's Strictly tour. But that was only one of a number of recent scandals, which we will revisit in a minute. Now, I'm going to go to the panel. I've got to say, it's important to declare your interest, right? So the public know I am entirely biased when it comes to this. I was on the show nearly a decade ago. I know not everybody in my year necessarily had the best time. I could think of at least one person but I've never watched this back, by the way. Hang on a second. Oh, you've got to be kidding. Okay,
wow.
I might want to add it.
Look at that turn.
Yeah.
Can you still dance like that?
Only if Wynne assisted with the help of a great deal of Prosecco.
Surely there's some time to do that right now, no?
No, because I think in one moment, if you stay open, I'm about to rip my top
look at that!
off. Okay.
That's me.
There you are. Do you know, this is
hot in
bringing back absolutely horrifying things. I feel like I'm in a therapy session and I have to really deal with my last moments of trauma. No, I tell you that because I know it's no secret in my year, Laura Whitmore didn't have a great time. She was dancing with Giovanni and she's made, her views about her experience known. But from my experience, it was fantastic and professional and joyful. And the most important thing is that people at home, over 10 million sometimes, even more, about 12 million in the final, from every background, every community, sit and watch one piece of television. We don't really have anything that galvanises communities in the same way. And to that extent, it's a really good thing. And I just wonder whether you think, Anju, that these scandals are not just interfering that, but frankly ruined it beyond repair.
I feel so passionately about this because BBC's Strictly Come Dancing has been one of the few shows that has managed to have a really inclusive cast. They've really managed to storytell and build empathy with different types of people. It's family orientated, it's nation loved. Right. Absolutely, this has tainted the show. That said, yes, it might be highlighting a cultural governance issue around what's going on behind scenes, maybe a question mark which you can shed light on around maybe the pressure to perform, but we cannot axe the show.
So more rules, don't
it.
throw out the baby with the bathwater.
No,
very quickly with you, Albie, are you a fan of the show? I see you'd never watched me on it before.
No,
To be fair, you were probably only 13 at the time.
I was more of an X Factor man when it was still on rather than Strictly, so that's what I watched when ITV used to do X Factor. But now I've got no excuse other than the fact I go out on Saturdays. First of all, can I just express my shock and disbelief at celebrities reportedly doing cocaine? Yep. I mean, what a shock. That's not very much of a surprise.
I know you're being ironic, but they are sleaze bags of people that do it, especially celebrities.
There are so many that do it,
Yeah,
though.
but the celebrities, I don't mind if you keep quiet and stuff, but leaving aside that contributes to poor kids, especially, county lines, usually kids of colour in London, but that's not true outside of the city. And above all else, them going and being activist about global warming, whilst putting cocaine up their artisanal nostrils. I think people like that who get caught, if they are celebrities especially, should go to prison for even longer. But do carry on with your point.
I will carry on. Well, I think we probably disagree on drug policy, but maybe that's something we can talk about at another time. But in terms of this leading to the end of Strictly Come Dancing, I think that would be a gross overreaction. As you mentioned, 10 million people watch this show every Saturday during the winter, 12 million during the final. I think the only other pieces of television that do that are things like football games, coronations, royal funerals, things like that. So I think if we cancelled Strictly because of these scandals, and of course work needs to be done at averting these scandals, I think that would leave millions of people very upset.
Well, the people at home, just to be clear, that might think differently, because let's just have a reminder of the rows that have played Strictly in the past year or so. We've got a little refresher over here, just sort of naming a few. Now, let's look at this first one. Last year, the BBC upheld some complaints of verbal bullying and harassment against former pro-dancer Giovanni Panice. They were made by actress Amanda Abingdon. She claimed she got PTSD from that experience of appearing on the show. And then the next one, another pro dancer, Graziano Di Prima, was axed after apparently he kicked his partner, Zara McDermott. He said he deeply regretted his actions. And then, of course, the famous one that sort of started what we're hearing about this morning. We've spoken about Wynne Evans. Here he is over here. But don't forget, he also made headlines after placing his hand near the midriff of his partner, Katya Jones, during last year's series. And they said that they were joking around. You probably saw it. What do you think? And then this last one, another contestant from last year, EastEnders actor Jamie Borthwick, was suspended by the BBC for using a slur against disabled people on the Strictly set, which he's apologised for. Now, we're now going to bring in Hannah Hope, who is the showbiz editor for The Sun on Sunday, who's broken a number of these stories of the scandals at Strictly. And what I'm going to say about her is that she seems to be sort of slightly gunning for the show. But I've got to ask you about it. Do you think it's time to end the show? You seem to definitely think that with these scandals building up, that perhaps it's time for, well, the programme to waltz off.
I definitely think that last year, when the investigation into Giovanni Panice was ongoing, and the Director General of the BBC, Tim Davies, apologised on behalf of anyone, who felt that they'd had a difficult time on the BBC, I think at that point it should have been rested at least, so they could have done reviews behind the scenes. But instead, they soldiered on with their money-making machine. And what we've seen is that there's been more scandal brewing behind the scenes.
Well, Hannah, how do you know they haven't done reviews behind the scenes? I mean, the scenes. What this has done now, I mean, because of what one of the complainants made a claim, there's a law firm has come and done an independent review. I mean, hasn't that affected some sort of change?
Well, no, I mean, other than putting a chaperone in the rooms of the contestants, that didn't stop the scandal brewing earlier this year with Wynne Evans using a terrible slur, which was caught on camera by a journalist. And it didn't stop Jamie Borthwick talking obscenely behind the scenes in using a terrible slur about disabled people. And now, because of that, we've got accusations of drug taking of cocaine behind the scenes on a BBC publicly funded show. I mean, the fish rots from their head.
Sorry, I have to say, you seem like someone that's sort of gunning for this show. And, I think what this perhaps to some people smells of is this sort of classic thing of, Britain not really liking anything that's too big for its boots. In other words, it does really well, it's really popular, so now it's time for Hannah and the Sun to bring it down. Is that pretty much what you're engaged in? 12 million people watch it.
Well, no, it's not the Sun bringing it down. It's my personal opinion that I think it should be rested while they make some serious changes behind the scenes.
So, Hannah, what do you think about Love Island then, where we saw actual, life? Was it three lives were taken and it continued? What did you think about that, and how did you come out about that? How is that continued? But this is where we should act something.
What we saw is the ITV making huge changes about welfare and duty of care to its contestants. And the BBC clearly hasn't done that, because when I interviewed Amanda Abbington last year, she said there was no duty of care on the show.
Well, hang on a second and stop you there, because, sorry. Forgive me, but you just said that this year, as a result of the complaint that was made by Amanda Abbington, all of the dancers and the celebrity contestants had a chaperone in the room. So there clearly have been structural changes in terms of the safety of the participants. So that problem has been addressed. What else do you suggest that they should do?
I think there needs to be some serious reform behind the scenes. We can't have a BBC publicly funded show where there's drug taking going on during filming of a live show. And also, if contestants are using these terrible slurs, behind the scenes...
hang on, the person who used the drugs, people who use the drug allegedly are now being investigated. If it's found to be the case, they will be undoubtedly dismissed. The person using the ableist slur was immediately disciplined. I don't get your point. What's your next point?
Well, I think that there just needs to be more reforms done. Maybe there needs to be a new head of the show. Maybe there needs to be different people running it. And I know that definitely lots of people, celebrities like yourselves, don't necessarily want to be taking part in the show after what's gone on. I mean, I think they've especially
People are
struggled
clamoring to take part in the show. But I just want,
Hannah,
isn't this
come
really
on.
you, Hannah, gunning for the BBC? I mean, it's the BBC's most popular show. What you've just said, they've either addressed or they've made safer. They've responded on every occasion. I don't really understand the animus here, save to say that you want to give a gut punch to the publicly funded BBC. Now, if that's your agenda, fine, but at least be honest about it.
Well, Wynne Evans, who took part in the show last year, said this year that there was still no duty of care from the BBC. If you were a celebrity going onto this show thinking, oh, this could boost my career, but actually I could end up in a huge scandal, which could end my time on television, I'm sure they'd think again. Lots of people are reconsidering taking part in the show.
But don't you think in Wynne Evans's case, I mean, that was something that you would agree. I think it's part of your writing. I've been through the corpus, the body of your work. He brought that on himself. He was the person who made those comments, who behaved in that socially inappropriate way. That's not about a duty of care. When you go on that show, you're given a very clear lecture about appropriate comments and behaviour. What more are they supposed to do other than deal with adults in the room? What would you have them do, Hannah?
Well, certainly I just think that it needs to be run more tightly. Maybe they're not doing stringent enough screenings before signing these people. I mean, they can't have people who are taking part in the show doing cocaine during filming. I mean, you can't agree.
Well,
that
I don't think
that's
anybody
right.
disagrees with you about that. I mean, we absolutely would 100% agree with you about that. And if that is discovered, you've probably heard my comments made about that before. Very, very strong dim view about that. But stay with us. Lots of strong views. Paul, you're in Greater Manchester. You've heard what's been said. You know, it's a question of there are scandals here, but do you throw the baby out with the bathwater, or do you just address it by having enhanced, help for the people taking part and tighter rules for everybody?
Well, I'm a Strictly Come Dancing super fan, and I'm expecting all the cast to be announced this week onwards. So I'm getting really excited, and I run a Strictly Come Dancing Facebook group. I know loads of people who love Strictly. As they say, it brightens up their autumn and winter. I love the BBC in terms of its programmes too. I do think there's an agenda. I also think it's partly related to the fact that the show's become more diverse. It includes a lot of disabled people nowadays, right. Same-sex couples, and I was a bit upset there was none last year. And I want to say to Hannah, in jobs, in places like Asda, in places like Tesco, in places like all these big supermarkets, you'll have people who do wrongs, and in politics you do. Does that mean we shut down Asda because there's some people done wrong? No, they get dismissed, as you said, and the show goes on. And it's the same with Strictly. She knows it's popular, so I do think she's got a bit of an agenda. And I do think that gentleman who was in the cast last year, I won't mention his name, but he came on and he was a big head, and he's been chastised over it, and he wants to bring down the show too. And I'm just so fed up of it. I love Strictly, so do many people. Bring on the autumn season.
Well, you put that point on Hannah. I think it's only fair for you to, have the last word. You've heard what's said. That person wanted to bring down the show because he had a bad experience. Some say he brought it on himself. It's clearly a show that's much beloved. Just really, do you want to bring it down, or do you want to see something else happen?
Look, I'm not gunning for the BBC. I just think that Strictly has had its day. There's clearly a lot of unhappiness going on behind that sequence.
You want the end of the BBC's biggest show. How aren't you gunning for it?
Hang on, let Hannah have the last word. Carry on. Sorry, you were saying.
But I do believe that, it's losing the trust of the British public. Clearly, there's some falsehood going on there. And I think we can do better.
Well, 12 million people may disagree, but you put your case forcefully and well. And one thing that we all agree on, and it's still under investigation, we don't know who those dancers are. But if there is or there was drug taking during the course of Strictly, no doubt those dancers, if they were doing it, will be severely disciplined. And that's one thing you and I and all the panel will certainly agree on, even if we disagree on your taste on Saturday night television. Nobody's perfect, Hannah. There you are. Thank you for all of your calls, and thank you.